few clicks, a few hears back. There we go. Hope you're nice and comfortable there, Buckso.
I sure am.
We're looking forward to this one, aren't we?
Really are. Really are.
Wonderful. I think we're live. A few clicks. And there we are. So, team, thank you very much for tuning in nice and early. This is the Empower Hour show with Salam Radio, our main sponsor and program supplier, the Inspired Tribe, and myself, Sukhi Wahiwala. This is episode 74. 74 episodes. That's 74 hours, team, of enlightening, empowering content that has changed the world of anybody who wants to care to sort of listen to it. This evening, I personally have been tracking Buckso for quite some time. As an actor originally, not knowing another side of her life. Buckso Dhillon, she has acted in Aladdin, in case you don't know, the actual real one with Will Smith there as well. She's also acted on Bend It Like Beckham, the West End shows. This is just to say a few things in the repertoire. We're going to get deep with her in a moment and get more information on this one. But this evening, she's here to share her wisdom, her knowledge, her change-making ability, how she's grown as a human being herself, not necessarily to reject her version of the world, in essence. And she is here as a pioneer for females and women in their own representation in this world. It's truly a humble pleasure to invite Buckso Dhillon to the Empower Hour show. Welcome, Buckso.
Well, thank you, Sukhi. Long time coming, eh? Long time coming. We've been trying to do this for, got to be nigh on 2 years, hasn't it?
It has. It's been an absolute age.
Yeah. So thank COVID. COVID. Thank you very much.
We've got you. I was going to say, because of COVID, with everybody's been affected by it as well. But with a nice positive spin on the possibilities, we wouldn't have got you otherwise. Which you would have been in some kind of an acting job and somewhere else otherwise.
Always
We're starstruck. We're starstruck. We're absolutely humbled to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Truly, truly welcome. Now, a couple of questions. I'm just going to delve back in, and I apologize. We're not going to go down to this, I suppose you could say, with the Empower. We don't get soppy. We don't go slow. We go straight into it. Really, our audience is really healed. They get the understanding of who you are as an individual. But I'd like to just build a little bit of an understanding of who you are, because you talk a lot about bereavement. You talk a lot about human advancement with your own quantum understanding, healing, and all those sort of things. But you're also an actor, a mum, a wife, a daughter. There's so many aspects to you as a human being, a friend, and in this new chapter of your life, a complete inspirer to get people unlocked in their own journeys. So I just want to touch a little bit, go straight to the point here, Buckso. What was your upbringing like? Where were you born? Have you got any siblings? Whereabouts in the country were you born?
So I live in Derbyshire, but I was born in Stoke-on-Trent. So I'm the middle child of 6, if you can say that. I'm fourth one along, so 2 younger, 3 older. So it's a bit of a, what's the name, isn't it? Am I the middle one, or is the one older than me, the middle one, the one that was third along? And so middle child of 6. 5 sisters, 1 brother. He's the youngest. My parents were first generation Punjabi immigrants to the UK. And so we started life out in Stoke-on-Trent.
Brilliant. And we're going to probe in a second. Buckso, is it possible just to bring the microphone a little bit higher, where your voice is just a little low, just in case if it's possible? The microphone from your earpiece. That's it. Yeah. The microphone. Yeah, that would be great. So in context of that, Buckso, as a child, what was school like? Were you the, I suppose, as bright as you are nowadays?
I wouldn't say be bright. I'm not sure I would say I was.
I'm not talking about academics. I'm talking about the bright light that you truly are.
Okay. I'll go with that one. Yeah, I'll have that one. So no, being at school, it was very much a form of escapism for me. That was really where I got to live my life, sort of being a child, one of 6 kids, parents, my dad trying to just focus on putting food on the table. Wow. We were quite we were restricted in where we could go, what we could do. They didn't understand the way of the country. So, of course, they were just doing it for protection, etc. But I really loved school. It was my escape. I just loved being there. Even though I didn't do greatly at school, academically, I was very much the one that sat at the back of the classroom, attracted to the, shall we say, the ones that kind of messed about a bit and didn't say, talking lots of the times, could do better. I tended to go towards them more because they were more interesting, they were more exciting to be around. And I was bored, if I'm being honest. I was bored at school. And I just
can I just interject a little bit? So that's actually really evident for our audience, because we've got such a wonderful audience from all over the world, every hemisphere of the world, actually, and people who tune in who are very young as well. The reality of this is that for a parent, I suppose, to an extent, is it correct in me saying that the representation of a child in school isn't necessarily an outcome of them being successful or not? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, no, actually I am, because a lot of people assume that success and high achieving involves financial, reward and having a healthy, huge bank balance. But I would definitely say that I have had relative success in my life, despite leaving school with no qualifications, not going to college, not going to uni, or even drama college. For which we'll touch on in later on in the conversation with the acting world. I didn't think I would achieve when I was at school. I didn't think I would be a success when I left school, because you are so indoctrinated with that thought process that if you don't do well at school, you're not going to achieve. Wow. And I would say out of all of us, out of the six of us, I probably my sister's a solicitor, my other sister's a professor, teacher, so they've done quite well in theirs, but they were always academic. But for somebody who wasn't really assumed would do very well, I would say I've done extremely well.
Oh, without a doubt, Buckso, I've got to say, absolutely tremendously well. I mean, how many individuals can actually quote the fact that they've actually been in A-listing environments, with as an actor, as a representation? Is that okay if I go a little bit into that as well, if I may? So you were an actor, you are an actor. Now, the conversation that I would like to say is that, you've been in very coveted environments, some great esteemed programs, shows, and films. Could you just share a few of the journeys with us?
Yeah, so I started sort of very late in life. I only started 12 years ago. I'm 48 now. So I only really started 12 years ago, and it was never intentional even then. I'd always harbored a dream to get into the entertainment industry when I realized I'd got a voice at 13, having sang the theme tune to the kids' TV program of the 80s called Why Don't You?
Oh my God! Why Don't You?
Yeah, that's an iconic
I can remember that when I grew up. All I can remember is, the track of, I think, what did it go like? It was like, Why Don't You? Or something like that. I can't remember what it was called.
It's why don't you switch off your TV set, do something less boring instead. That's what I sang. Yeah.
So, that is amazing at 13.
Yeah. And I was constantly told to step back from the microphone. And I thought, they're not going to hear me. It's because I had such a powerful set of lungs, it transpires. But I never knew how I was going to achieve that dream, because we weren't actually being portrayed on television very much at all in those days, unless you were being ridiculed. So my dad also had that thought process of, well, you and 20,000 other people, when I said I wanted
not going to make it because...
Yeah, he said, he didn't say it in its entirety, but I knew now, looking back, it was thinking with first generation immigrants, how do you think you're going to do that? So I harbored the dream, had twins, and everything sort of changed in my outlook for what I was going to do work-wise, because I wasn't qualified in anything. I landed a role in the railway quite by mistake in my mid-20s, and was going to stay there and work my way up into management, because I was earning really good money for somebody who wasn't educated. And so when I had the twins, all that changed. I was kind of catapulted out of that workforce and had to find other work. And I went into call center, Asda, qualified beauty therapist, all different jobs, trying to find, but I wasn't satisfied. And I thought, you know what?
As well?
Sorry?
Just to balance the children upbringing kind of part-time,
exactly.
Is that right?
Part-time, absolutely.
Well done.
And so I thought, I've got to give acting a go. I'm never going to be an actor mainstream. So I'll just go on as a background artist, start around in the background as a supporting artist. And of course, after a year or two of that, a friend of mine was working for somebody in London on a production, and he met a guy there who set up his own agency. And he said to me, my friend said, I met this guy and he's just set up his agency. I think he'll really like you. And I said, have you told him that I've got no qualifications? I've not been to drama school or anything like that, because I didn't want to show myself up. And he said, yeah, I told him. But I think
immediately you would say self-doubt, right? So you
absolutely, I didn't have any self-worth or any value about who I was and what I was about at that time. Gosh. So I said, okay, I'll go and see him. So I auditioned for him really badly because I didn't know what it involved to do a monologue. And I did something totally opposite to who I could ever portray. But I took direction well, and he saw something in me in that instance, which made him say yes to taking me on. So he took a punt on me. And 3 months in, I got my first job on Coronation Street.
Wow.
Yeah, as the registrar that married Tony and Carla together.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So what era is this then, Buckso?
That would be 2008. Yeah, 2008-ish.
So what we would classify as very, very recent, because that's Coronation Street now.
Oh gosh, but I've done Coronation Street 4 times since then. Most recently, February last year, in fact, just before lockdown. And so since then, it's been very much a steady pace. Very much quality over quantity in the work that I've got. I've done all of the soap operas in the UK, except Holby City for some reason, but that can remain elusive. Why should we achieve it all? And then I've done things like The Tunnel, Unforgotten, Last Tango in Halifax, Silent Witness, and of course, Aladdin.
It's honest truth. It's just amazing what a tremendous repertoire and resume, could I say. Please continue. I mean,
when I say it out loud, I can't believe I've done all that, because we just don't take the time to
reflect,
praise ourselves. I mean, I never had praise growing up, so you don't actually even know what that looks like. You think it's blowing your trumpet. That's what we are taught to think. Yeah. Oh, stop blowing hot air up your own backside. You know, it's like, no, I've done all right. You know, I've done.
Isn't it? I tell you what, one of the key things that we've always learned is what we share quite openly here on the channel is just to grab a pen and paper and sometimes just to write stuff down, what you've achieved. And it's just like, it's such a warming thing to see, at least even not every day, but at least to see analyze it on the 31st of, or the 1st of January, just to look at all these little bits of piece of paper. One of my mentees and also one of my guests a few weeks ago, her name was Trina. She used to use this as a box that you just, every time you achieve something, just throw it in there, just throw it in there, just throw it in there. End of the year, pull them all out and just enjoy, put gratitude in your life and achievement.
We have a head down, and that's what my life was very much like for the last 25 years. Head down, trying to function, trying to cope, trying to survive, trying not to lose the plot. And in turn, that became something that made me very much an alpha female. And I came from a very male energy all the time. And I realized that now, when I look back, that's what I was, full stop, very masculine energy. Mm-hmm. And so in turn, I ended up always operating from my head, never my heart, because my heart was just closed down.
What a great representation and great identity. Is it possible just to pick that mic again?
Are you losing me? I've got my earphones. It's the earphones. I've not actually got a microphone clicked on.
That's fine. It's just a little though. Just the earphones themselves. A little crap. That's okay. Fine. That's a lot better. There we go. A lot better. Okay. Please continue. Yeah, sorry.
So
you were talking about being from the head and not from the heart per se.
Absolutely. Always operating from the head. Always letting my head rule my heart. Never doing anything from a heart-centered place, because I hadn't got my heart center open. It had been shut down for years, realization, because of needing to cope, and never experiencing an environment that was love. So you never saw it in order to mirror it. You know what I mean? So you kind of were very, so one was very, not aggressive, but very assertive in their...
Pushy.
Yes.
Determined.
In life, because it's survival. I understand now that was just survival.
So would it be correct in saying something like this, Buckso, that the attitude you took, you mentioned it yourself, you became what you describe as what you call a more masculine energy. Yeah, and that obviously isn't so right now, but did you find yourself in a bit of what we call a duality between the masculine energy and the feminine energy?
I never recognized feminine energy. I didn't know what that even looked like. I didn't even know what one acted like when they were portraying feminine energy. I used to think crying was wishy-washy and weak, because if you think about it, if I started to cry, that would mean I'd weaken, which would mean I would break the link in this solid chain I'd created in order for me to function. Since I'd had the sort of trauma of separation from my family in my mid-20s when I got with my husband. So from that point on, I shut my heart center down.
Yeah, kind of like, would it be the same as saying kind of like a bit of a protection mechanism? You
Absolutely.
Hey, come on then, got to do this. I'm on my own.
I can't cry. I can't show any weakness, because then I will fall and I will falter and I will never survive. And in the first 4 years of getting together with my husband, I lost my family. His brother died. We got married, had twins. In the first 4 years. So that was a lot to contend with, as well as my own depression, the dark depression that I was entering, which very much carried a overarching theme of anger. Just anger,
resentment,
fear. Yeah, and just being on my own and thinking, right, well, you made your bed, now lie in it. You know, and that was what I was telling myself all these years, you know.
Can I just help, just extrapolate a little bit if I can? Firstly, I just want to thank you on behalf of the whole of the audience, Salam Radio and stuff, for being so open and honest. It's wonderful to hear such an achieved individual being so open with themselves, and being so centered, as you can see, very pleasant with yourself. Yeah. The question I want to say is that you said that you were in anger and resentment, and you made your bed, now lay in it. That one context there tells me that, in essence, you put yourself under a lot of pressure by making your own decisions, you know, saying that this is my journey now and I'm taking it. You know, I didn't follow education. I'm acting, but I'm also married the love of my life and I'm going my own way. I've made my bet. Is that correct? Please help.
Absolutely. It was very much like, oh, well, you better suck it up, buttercup, because this is the life you wanted. Well, this is what it looks like on the other side. I was continuing the self-talk, which I now recognize, that just kind of ingrained itself into my very core, where I've done the worst thing I could ever do. So anything else that I'm doing here with anybody else doesn't touch the side. I became very like, oh, you can't hit me. I don't feel guilty. Oh, not after what I've done. No, I don't feel guilty about anything.
Boisterous.
You know? Yeah. And it was just such a low level energy that I was operating from. Very low level. Yeah.
That is just beautiful to share. I mean, obviously, with being an actor, you have that ability. You've trained the ability within yourself to be in a particular persona, per se. But we're going to touch a bit later on what actually happened in another conversation I'm going to have a moment ago. But if I can just stay with your achievements, and thank you very much for being so open, and we'll reflect this in a moment for the audience to see how it sort of like affected you and what specifically triggered the change in your world. But, tell us a little bit about what it was like to work with, Gurinder Jadda or the Aladdin team. This is amazing. The Coronation team is so wonderful. Wonderful.
I'll be honest, the very first few years that I was in the acting industry, I was massively suffering from imposter syndrome. I didn't feel I belonged there. I always thought somebody's going to pop up in it and say, she's not been to drama school. She's not even trained. Ha ha ha! Get her off set. I used to think constantly, if we stopped the scene, or if a scene was cut short, I'd be like, that's something I've done. It must be because I said something wrong. Did I say something wrong? And I'd always say this to the actors, and they say, don't worry, if it's you, then you need to. If it is you, the director will come and tell you. Don't worry about that.
Wow, that's powerful. Yes.
Yeah.
So the self-doubt.
Self-doubt. Yeah.
So the community on stage was really the actors themselves were trying to say, well, hang on, look, don't you think about it.
Yeah.
The director's going to tell you whether it's right, wrong, or not.
Absolutely. Because I didn't know how the industry worked. I'd not had any training. I didn't know what it's like on set, whether it be camera work or stage work. I mean, I'd never done a stage play in my life. And there I was on the West End at the age of 42 years old, living away in London on my own with my husband part-time back in Derbyshire, looking after the kids. It was just
you have to take the journey. Now we're going to talk about that particular role a bit later when we're talking about kind of like what happens in the quantum soup of life. But can I ask a little bit of a question, just to make a bit of a direct question? What was it like working with the Aladdin team? Did you get to meet Will?
Yeah, I was in his scene. You know, he's a big guy. I mean, I'm only 5'3", but he was huge. And you know something? I used to watch him on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when he was
We
on
all
there.
did.
Yeah, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. But I wasn't a huge fan. I wasn't goggle-eyed over him. So that's kind of helped me a bit. And I knew in that moment of the split-second timing that I was in his scene, that wasn't the time for me to have conversation with him or anything like that. I wasn't about to do that. I'm very much of the mindset, I'll speak when I'm spoken to. I'm not a person that goes up to actors and says anything unless I'm stuck waiting to go on set with them and they're stood there. I'm not going to be totally silent. I'll just say, like, the guy that was in The Walking Dead, he was in a show, a series that I filmed, and I forget his name now. Gosh, I'm terrible.
But the gentleman played Rick, or?
Oh gosh, the guy that was, I can't think what his name was now. I can't think. No, not Rick. No, not him. Okay. The guy that is a British actor.
And I don't know what the cast is, but there we are. And so you weren't really starstruck, is that what you're trying to say?
No. And you know something, that if I'd been in my 20s, 30s, 30s, different kettle of fish. But because I'm older and I've got other things going on in life, I think actors can become quite self-absorbed in their world because they only have me, myself, and I to think about. And because they start so young in their 20s, 18, 19, they really do only think about themselves. And that, you know, it's not slating them.
No, not at all. But so is it fair to say something like this? I mean, the fact that we have to get in, well, as an actor, you'd have to get into character. Yes. So I suppose it's a bit of a license to be insular, isn't it, really? Because you've got to be self-reflective and it's the world's about me, I've got to get it right. That kind of thing. Am I right, on the right track?
Well, this is the thing, you see, because I haven't had any formal training, I don't know if that's what they do. But I always find what's a right. So when I'm in the scene and I've got to portray something, I won't dissect the script. It's not a right or wrong thing. I've never been trained to do it. I wouldn't know how to do it. So I just look at it, and then in the moment, I'll ask the director, what's my initial thought? What am I trying to portray at this point? Because I think it's this. Is that right or not? And he'll say yes or no. And
if it's a no, he'll tell you what he's looking for and you direct.
Or I'll just go straight into what I think I should be doing. And if the director doesn't say anything, he's cool. He's happy with it. And I don't give it any thought. I don't give it too much thought. I feel it. I feel what I need to do. I totally don't think it's about me ever. Do you know what I mean? And I never worry about my angle or anything. Maybe, I don't know, have I been in anything so important or not?
The thing is, I think you're quite an empath, really, inside.
Yeah, very much so.
But that hard facade changed. So it's going to lead a question, if I can. We, doing this interview itself, all of our audience actually love every one of the guests, and I get so many texts and communications thereafter. And the question that really is quite poignant in life is that there's usually what we classify as a defining moment in one's life. So in your life, a defining moment that completely just hits you like a ton of bricks. Much the same as what you were talking about, where you were becoming very masculine and didn't know how to be feminine, and then how to be, I'll do it my way. That's just me. And if he doesn't like it, he'll correct it. So all those elements of saying that those disconnections, this facade element, which is, I'm happy to share that you're so humble that you can actually be really open about that. Thank you. So what exactly would you classify as a defining moment in your life that helped you start this new inward journey, this reflection inwards from being this, I suppose, an actor, an actor in every element of life. Does that make sense? Without mind the pun, but to being a resonant, grounded human being.
So since I sort of started out on my own journey over 20 years ago, I was very much into all sorts of modalities, healing modalities that would see me through. I started investigating my spirituality, and I thought I was spiritual. I thought I knew everything that I needed to know about what happened to us when we die, where we need to be right and wrong and living life in good energy, high energy, and all of that. But then the defining moment came last year in January 28th, when my dad passed away. Now, he'd been ill for a while, and he kept sort of coming back, and, we thought, wow, he's here with us still. But no, January 28th, he passed away. And like I say,
Sorry.
I thought I knew what happened to us. I thought I was okay with that. But I was constantly bombarded with massive questions about why. He was 17 when he came to the UK. He did this, and this, and then he died. And I looked back and I was like, well, what was all that for? What are we doing? What is this about? Why am I here then? Is that all I'm going to do? Because I was thinking, well, I've been my husband 21 years, I'm going to be able to draw my pension.
Wow.
This 23 years has just flown. So the next 21 are also going to fly. What am I going to do about that? So what do I need to do? I've got this sudden urgency.
Could I just ask a question? That is so deep. But I just want to make sure that I can just share that so I can understand it properly, if it's okay. What you're saying is basically you kind of like extrapolated your dad's journey somewhat in that moment when you were with him, etc., where he came to the UK at 17 years old and he did various things, became a businessman, worked, etc., all those principles. And then today, you know, this is the end of his life and this is where he is and this is what he achieved. And what was that? What was it all supposed to be? And then you had the, I suppose, I'm just trying to ask this question. You had this a light bulb moment when you started to self-reflect upon that. Now, what is your journey? What are you going to leave here?
I just couldn't stop thinking about it. It had epiphany. It was my, I would say, my spiritual awakening. That's when I really became spiritually awakened, in that moment, in that time. And then I started to think, right, okay, so I know all about cremations. I know we get cremated. People can make, you know, diamonds out of ashes. Why is that? Oh, let me just check. Oh, well, there's carbon. Carbon's in diamonds. We have 4 grams of carbon in our bones when we die, which is what they use to grow in a lab environment for 9 months. Cost you about $3,000. And then you're left with a diamond that you can make into a piece of jewelry. But then I thought, wow, why do we have to die? Why do we have to die in order to reveal the diamond that's in us?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the brilliance of who we are. Why does that have to, metaphorically speaking, we can make a diamond out of our bones?
Can I get to repeat that a second? So that's so deep. We die with positive energy, you know, the positive side of dying. You know, we leave our body here, whether it's, you know, cremated, you have carbon, and you're saying that basically that compression of the carbon can be turned into a diamond that you can wear. And then that realization you just shared there was just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I'm sure the audience is saying that instead of wearing this diamond, but that's all we're left with, and that's what we've got to show for our life, why can't people be a diamond?
Yeah. In life, why aren't we showing our true brilliance?
I love it.
Why aren't we showing the many facets of us? Why aren't we unearthing the diamond within us that's our true essence of who we are, the multifacets of us? We only show a couple of facets to the world. Why? Because our environment, our upbringing, our experiences force us to put on the calcification, forces us to calcify that diamond so it's totally covered, you know, buried so deep that we need it to be drilled out like you would drill out a mine, a diamond mine, you know. Diamonds are brought about under pressure.
Compression.
You know? Yeah, we're under, that's how you get a diamond to reveal itself, by going under pressure. And if we are being put through so many adversities, surely we should embrace them for the layers that they corrode in the meantime of our essence and our soul and who we are. And that's me laid bare right now. We literally are diamonds. We are the essence of us, brilliance of us that shines out there, that can connect with the human race and with a fellow human being, is to be on earth. It has to be on earth. That's how we connect.
So is it fair to say that why not be a living diamond instead of a dead diamond, I suppose?
Yeah. You know, you've gone and somebody's got this diamond now that reminds them of you, right? And you're shining like a perfection that you are. The many facets of you are being revealed in that moment. The light hits it in the right place and the refractions are just mesmerizing. Why can't we be them things in life?
While we're alive, yeah.
Why do we care what other people think?
Oh, amazing.
Exactly. Why do we care what people think? Why do we stop ourselves and limit ourselves with our thoughts and beliefs and, you know, the lack of trust and the lack of vulnerability and the self-belief and the self-worth? All of these things, if they're mastered, culminate in you being able to shine in your true brilliance. And that's what I feel has happened to me in this last year. That's my defining moment. And the
That's
fact that, yeah,
just so beautiful. Sorry to interrupt there, but it's so important to share this point again, that why not be a living diamond? Why not be the diamond that's alive, that you can actually be the diamond for people? And this deep reflection came from your father's passing. You know, if everyone's just joined us, this is the Empower Hours show, episode 73, with Buckso Dhillon, the actor, the person who's created, who's been a part with so many of your high street, including from age 13, singing songs like Why Don't You, and Coronation Street, all the high-end ones, Aladdin, the movie, the Hollywood movie, you know, Bend It Like Beckham. If you've just joined us, please, please, scrub back. We have just had the most unbelievably deep conversation of empowerment and clarity that she's just gone through, with reference of being a diamond whilst you're alive, instead of just being a diamond when you've passed away with your cremated ashes. And her upbringing. Please scrub back to the start if you've just joined this live transmission, just go back to the start. So welcome back to episode 73 of the Empower Hour with Buckso. And I just want to lead into another conversation, Buckso. Welcome back. I told you it would take 5 minutes. It seemed like 5 minutes, we're already halfway through.
I know. It is, and we're just touching on that. And so this year, the defining moment also topped off with me reconsidering my purpose and whether I still want to be in the acting world, not because of anything negative, but just a need to do more. I mean, don't get me wrong, if I was in a position of A-list celebrity, I would be impacting more on a humanitarian level and a philanthropic level for sure. So what can I do? That doesn't mean I can't do it now. You know, I can still do it, and the acting will continue. And it's not going to be my main focus. I'm not going to sit there twiddling my thumbs about it. I mean, everybody knows it's been very, very quiet within that industry, as it is for a lot of people. And so what I've been on now is a spiritual journey of a higher ascension, ascending to the point where I'm able to connect with my higher self. And so my job going forward is to immerse myself even more into practicing spirituality, the reality of spirit, and what that means to live by the universal laws, you know, and try to better understand the science of the mind, the metaphysics of what it is.
Could I ask a question? Obviously, that's a big conversation around metaphysics and structures and life in life. But I also know that you've got quite an excellence in conversation around bereavement, and in helping people get through bereavement who are feeling the loss of somebody in depth. So can I just ask you to just rewind, and if you don't mind, just helping the audience a little bit with that sort of conversation?
Okay, so my philosophy that came to be channeled, downloaded or whatever around grief, and it's mainly grief as opposed to just bereavement, because grief can come at when we have the loss of a job, somebody, a loved one, a relationship, a job that you had. I think I've already said that. You know, it could be the ending of anything, okay? And that brings about a certain grief. And what we do as human beings is we suppress it through alcohol, drugs, going mad at the gym, overeating, just doing something else to excess to help to forget, or
some form of addiction and excess.
Correct. To suppress.
An apology if anybody is feeling these sort of tendencies as well. I know we're broadcasting live and it's through the radio as well. So please always seek help if you have these kind of feelings. Reach out to your most importantly, to your immediate family. If you find that's not close, that's too close for comfort, speak in confidence to your doctors and actually ask for the help. It is very, very important, and to assist yourself to shine again. So
absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And I thought it was so sad. This is the sort of the thing that we do as humans. That's what we feel that we know we have, but that's the only option we have. Because yes, a lot of friends of mine who've required grief counselling have had to wait a minimum of 6 months before they're even allowed to speak to anybody, because they wanted to settle in their body.
Yeah.
But what I thought was, in that moment in time, it's such a beautiful opportunity for us as human beings to recalibrate our inner sat nav. Because the amount of times people always say, oh, she's never been the same since she lost the job. He's never been the same since he lost such and such, or, you know, the partner died. It's supposed to change us. You know, it's not a bad thing. It's supposed to change us. if it does change, you know, if it does impact you that much, there's a reason behind it. That's what I've learned, because I didn't understand why I was being impacted so much out of the six of us for not having a great relationship with my dad when he, you know, when he passed away. I was probably the last person I thought I would be asked to help him, you know, be nursed, etc. So I couldn't understand why I was feeling this grief and loss. And there are so many things attached to it that are unhealed from our childhood that we need to make sense of. And so this opportunity to embrace the grief and recalibrate
oneself, yeah.
Recalibrate oneself.
Could I just check on that again, just so I can understand it correctly? So grief is separate to the bereavement. Bereavement is when you're self-healing and going through the bereavement of somebody, then moving away from. You're separating grief, which I think is a really valid point. Taking grief as in anything that's no longer there, kind of thing.
That's right. When you lose the loss, it's loss.
Yes. So can I ask a question of yourself? Because I just want to get the audience to understand why we have you on the show. Because not only are you a healed, amazing actor, but you've got this other spiritual essence about yourself, which is being articulated daily and helping other people through their journey. The question I ask yourself is that is the death of somebody else always reflected upon self, for example, by a bit of what you were talking about earlier on, that selfish energy is my world or nobody else's world. Could you represent the death of a loved one as being seen as my world being changed? And I suppose, do we feel the grief of the third person or the second person who's passed away based upon how it's going to affect my world? I mean, I've met so many people who've gone through grief, and it's always going to be about how my world is going to change. And then upon that comes the missing part of, I've lost this person, the grief of that. But they always have this undertone about, my world will never be the same. I'll never be able to get a phone call to them again. I'll never be able to give them a cuddle. So it's about how it changes their world. Am I understanding this correctly?
So right. I think what happens in that instance is where the focus is, where the focus goes when a person has died, and we are, you know, people are on bereavement.
Yeah.
The focus of putting on their the onus on the fact that they won't be able to bring them again, and that realization, the dawning of that, your life isn't going to be the same again. And instead of us seeing that as a shock, people don't talk about death. We just don't talk about it. And that's the issue. So if we talk more openly about it to begin with, once it happens, the blow isn't as strong. It will still be strong, depending on how deep your relationship was with that individual. I'm not here to take that away. I'm talking about my experience and my pop. And the thing is with that, how I was affected, now when I look back, everything I did in my life was for him. I'll show you. I'll show you. And now he's gone. It's like, oh.
Who do I show now?
What am I doing now? Am I still doing this? Am I still going to be an actor? Because I told him I would be one. And he's seen me at the West End show. He knows I'm doing it. And now he's not here. It's like, oh, do I still want to be an actor? That was a shock. It's like, how can that stop being? How can that stop being a thing that is in me? Do you know what I mean? So I was very close to jacking it all in. March last year, April last year. And that's why I started in earnest on this spiritual journey, because I know where my true passion lies is definitely speaking and teaching the wisdom of my experiences and what I've come to find, and through channeling whatever it is, connecting my higher self. But we can all do, by the way. We just need to choose to do it. And I realized that, yes, I can still be an actor, because that energy that I bring is required in the industry. You know, if I wish more actors would be more in touch with their higher selves and connect on a deeper level, so they're not coming from a place of fear. And every one of us should do that. We should not, you know, we should work towards coming from a place of love, which I used to think was wishy-washy to say that, for goodness sake. It was. But I wholeheartedly feel that coming from a place of love
That's very, very powerful coming from yourself. Thank you very much for describing it in such simplicity, which makes it so easy to understand. So if somebody was actually going through grief per se with themselves, just listening tonight, maybe they're hurting from a loss through COVID, for example. I know a number of my very, very close friends who sadly have lost parents, mums, dads, brothers, sisters through this trying time of COVID-19. How would one start to kind of attempt to heal oneself and reflect backwards and take the positives forward, if there's such a way?
I think for me, and again, I'm just going by my experience and what I found it a lot easier to deal with and a lot easier to handle by becoming educated for myself, finding my truth. Everybody has to find out their own truth. Don't be led by external factors and people telling you you'll be all right by this date, and normally the first 6 months are like this, and then a year you'll feel. You find your own truth out. As soon as we start to hang our coat on something that somebody else is saying to us, we have a failed expectation waiting to happen. Failed expectations is what it's all about, you know. If we look external to give us solace, validation, we will always be failed. We have to go and find our own truth out. Go and find, if you've got some questions popping up in your mind, find a person that could talk to you about it.
So find the truth.
Find the truth for you. Find your truth. Is that all that happens? That if you've gone through life thinking that when a person dies, that's it, they die. No. A lot of people find coping with death a lot easier by doing that, but they genuinely deep down inside feel that. I didn't feel that. I knew that something happened to our soul and the essence of who we are in our spirit afterwards. And I wanted to know more, so I'd watch everything. I'd devour spiritual magazines. I would do my own research and I would look for my truth. And if it hit the spot that resonated with me, that was my truth.
Love it.
It's about not making another person wrong in what their perception is. We all wear a different pair of glasses.
That's very humbling, not to ridicule anybody else's version of the world. I love it. Thank you. So a question arises in my brain that, and just to synopsize if I can, so somebody who's feeling grief right now is to realize that this is an inevitable part of life and that they should self-reflect to find out their own truth. Don't live a lie, don't live somebody else's version of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly yes? That, exactly.
When did you find that you felt that you were possibly distracted by your own journey, and maybe you lived by somebody else's standard? You mentioned earlier on in the interview, thank you for being so honest, how you wanted to compete and do in a masculine way without being so feminine. So I know you represent women today and get them back to their own authentic self. So when did you realize when you were away from your essence? And then how would you advise anybody else to reflect this and see?
Because whenever I'd hear things being portrayed to me or explained or suggested to me, they just didn't sit well. It just didn't sit right. I was constantly, but why? Why do we have to do that? I didn't just take it. You know, I didn't just open my mouth and a spoon went in and I was fed. It was something that was innate in me. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that was learned by any stretch of the imagination. I just had that in me to begin with.
Natural intrigue, yes.
Natural intrigue to question everything. And that's why I never settled for stuff. If it didn't sit well, it was just this niggling feeling, you know, that was just like, this isn't right. Something's not right here, you know. And I'd investigate that. I couldn't just take things lying down. I'd always have to fight it. Maybe that was a little male in me. I don't know. But
I think it's neither or, isn't it? I think what you're sharing is it was just an inner part of you.
Part of me.
Yeah. That you were trying to sort of like use. Would it be fair to say that you were using it as a protection to start off with doing the masculine thing, but just being you, and your essence now is balanced, hasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. It was very much self-protection in that respect. And now I know more about me. I mean, massively, I do say to people, you know, as soon as you know thyself, the power that comes from that, nobody can take it away from you. I could walk into a room of people and not one person will have anything on me because I've owned it already. I already know this about myself. I already know that about myself. I know what it is I need to do.
So in essence, you're comfortable in your skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that inner self. So if somebody's trying, well, if somebody's feeling a bit battered, they maybe are surrounded by individuals who don't give them the evidence that they believe in them, that kind of thing. So what could you do in the ultimate essence of, with your children, with life going forward? How could you advise people to help themselves and help others? Could you believe more with people?
If you've got something inside of you that knows, you don't know why, but you just know there's more to what you're doing in life, you have to pursue that. And I had no support achieving any of my ambitions. No support at all.
Acting and stuff.
Nothing at all. That one time when my friend said, I want to introduce you to him, that was the only help I got. And yes, my husband's been massively supportive along the way by going part-time when he needed to, etc. Financially he supports us as well. But if you fundamentally know something inside you is dying to be expressed, and you're not getting that support around you, find your people. Go and find them. Bless and release those in your life that don't want to contribute, that ridicule what you're doing. At the end of the day, as Dan Pena, there's a guy called Dan Pena, which I'm sure you know, $50 billion man, they call him. And he says, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Yeah, right? And that's not to sort of put anybody else down, but you have to appreciate people where they are in that moment in their life. And if you're reminding them, being a mirror to what they're not being, they're going to hate you for it. So they will ridicule you and pull you down. There's one great thing that Oprah Winfrey said. She talks about herself, which is how I see myself, being a 10-gallon girl. If I'm surrounded by people that only hold a gallon, how can they fill me up? I'm constantly pouring into their 1 gallon and giving and giving. But who fills me up? I need to find my other 10-gallon girls or 20-gallon girls that are out there. Hang out with them. They can keep pouring into my 10 gallons and I'll have more to give. But when you're in a space, in a place within yourself where you have the 10-gallon capacity to give, there will be lots of 1 galloners around there to take.
That's so powerful. Is that something for the children to think about? Who am I hanging out with?
Exactly.
And what do I actually really want? Do I want to be what I'm seeing? Because there's plenty of studies out there who's sharing things such as mirror neurons and understanding that we like to be liked. We like to be connected with other human beings, convivial. Yeah. So in that context, is that what you're trying to say? Basically, you become the sum of your society per se, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's where you reach your capacity.
Potential. That's it.
That's it. You cap yourself.
I understand. So we're saying something. It's kind of like a ceiling, isn't it? Like a glass ceiling that holds you in the place.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about the concept of loneliness, it's something that I now know.
Concept of
loneliness.
Loneliness, yeah.
Loneliness. Nobody wants to be lonely. Even kids of 5 and 8, they don't want to feel that loneliness, so they will tolerate and put up with whoever it is that they get to hang around with just so they are not alone. And I know from having revisited my childhood through all the work I've done on myself, loneliness was a massive thing for me. So me choosing to go out on my own, to go it alone, really was no shock because I was all right on my own.
The independence.
I functioned alone. That was massive for me to have that realization and that knowledge. And then, of course, the inner child work starts, where you have to start forgiving yourself and protecting that inner child and loving them, giving them what they never got in their youth.
You were touching on it earlier with the forgiveness, identifying the forgiveness. Is there anything that you can share with the audience that maybe they haven't realized that they could self-forgive themselves, or they haven't realized that sometimes somebody listening might realize that they haven't actually put those limitations on themselves? Is that right?
Yeah. So when I was, like I say, working on myself over the last couple of years with Ernest, I came across this technique called Ho'oponopono, which I know you'll know about.
Yes, and a very close sister of mine called Marilyn Devonish. She's very much in this particular vein, Ho'oponopono, and it's the Hawaiian logic. Is that right? Yes, same one. That's right.
I love it. Dr. Hugh Len was the guy that came to bring it into the public domain along with Joe Vitale, Dr. Joe Vitale.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was amazing in the healing process when it
please walk us through some of it. You know, it'd be really nice to hear this.
So when I went to look after my dad, he started on dialysis November 2019. And I used to go down to Stoke from Derby 3 nights a week, 2 nights a week sometimes, and do what I needed to do, help out. And every night I would play this video on YouTube that the Wayne Dyer, yeah, he would talk through it, that I am, and also a Ho'oponopono, subliminal 4 statements that they use. And what it is that you do is you constantly play it and you send the energy either verbally out loud or in yourself within. You can picture the person, you can be in their presence. And one technique that he does in his workshops is gets people to stand face to face with all the person, no conversation is said, the other person looks into the other person's eyes and says in their mind, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. I mean, how many times do any of us say that to anybody? I'm sorry. I never said that to people. I love you. I say it to my kids now and my husband. I never used to say that. I never heard it growing up.
Yeah.
Please forgive me. Whoever asks for forgiveness, I didn't do anything wrong. No, why should I say sorry? How many times do we go through life doing that? Thank you. And these people in this experiment, without any wordage or hearing anything, they would start to cry because the eyes were saying everything and they were just being forgiven.
So this is the true essence of forgiveness with self-forgiveness, lowering the humility, increasing humility and lowering the arrogance. But do these people have to kind of know each other? Or
no.
Could it be anybody?
No. Exactly. So for me, I sent it back to myself for the time when I was beating myself up. This is, if you beat yourself up, this is ideal one to start with. Because I used to think, why would I forgive myself? I was just going through life. I was just trying to function. I was just trying to survive. Why would I forgive myself? I was just trying to live, you know? And that's not what it's about. It's about, yes, I hear you. You're spot on. Absolutely. But just forgive yourself. Just do it. Just do it. So just forgive yourself.
That's so valuable to release people from grief, from anger, from anxiety. Just to look at something and say, thank you. You know, I forgive. Please forgive me.
Just say, I'm sorry first. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. You know, things that you could never say. I could never say that to my dad's face. We hadn't got that sort of relationship. But I used to sleep in the bedroom next door to him, and I would say it, directly to him, you know, in his bed, and I would just say, and I cried buckets. I cried, rivers. Last year was all about the tears, man. I tell you. And as a fire sign, that ain't good. But it was very, very cathartic. And you know something?
Bless you.
I never used to be a crier. And I highly, highly advocate crying. People
recommend it now. It's like, I recommend you cry.
I recommend it. I'm going to start doing crying workshops, actually. You have laughter yoga. Why can't I do crying workshops where we encourage people to cry, release?
You see,
that's why they taste salty, all them chemicals coming out.
This is such a deep conversation here. Thank you for this so much so, Buckso. Crying itself is proven to be the only genuine mechanism that your body has, to release energy, but to actually self-heal in that moment as well. And if you cry with somebody, the other person is automatically taken with you in the same space. It's a bit like smiling at somebody and bringing them in there, just being present with them. This is so beautiful to hear. Such a wonderful conversation. This leads me, if I may, Buckso, to something that I usually ask all our guests, and you've really, really given so much here this evening. Thank you. In the sense of self-respect, self-journaling, self-release, and gifting people the opportunity to forgive themselves and forgive others as well. One of the things that I'd like to, we always ask our guests in specific, and it's called the legacy moment. So if you could just imagine, by no means am I pulling this forward. I'm just saying, we don't go any time sooner than we're supposed to. But if I was to ask you a question, and I would say that your epitaph said something along the lines of this, I would like you to finish the sentence if you don't mind. So here lies Buckso Dhillon Woolley, the lady who. And I ask all of our clients, all of our guests, just to complete that sentence for ourselves and just explain why, if you don't mind.
The lady who would always ask why.
No.
And I'll tell you now, question everything.
Wow.
You know, whenever I was, growing up, and my parents and my mum would say, "Buckso, you need to start wearing these clothes now, Indian clothes." And I'm like, "Why?" "Well, Punjabi girls, that's what they do." "Yeah, but why?" And if I wanted to go out to a little disco from high school early on, no, you don't know, you can't go. "Why?" "Indian girls don't go there." "Yeah, but why?" I was never given answers to why. So I question everything. And, if somebody wants to go this way, and I always say, "Well, why can't we have a look at this way? Can we give that?" Like my husband takes the mickey out of me. If we go out on a restaurant and the menu says this, this, and this, I say, I don't like this, but I like that. So can you swap that for me? And they all start getting embarrassed and trying to explain me to them. "Oh, she does this every time." And they'll say, "Well," and I'll say, "But why not? It's on the menu. You just got to take, ask why."
He's a creative. Why not?
Yeah, it's why. Why not, though?
Love it.
You've got it in the fridge, haven't you?
And the beautiful part of that is it's not necessarily to have a deflection specifically. This is what I'm hearing from you, a deflection to anybody else's version of it.
No.
They may have a better version. They may already know some more information we don't know. That's not what we're sending the message out to our children. But the question is just if you're a parent, from my understanding, the legacy would say, ask why, because, well, actually, as a parent, would it be fair to say that you would explain why? And then as a child, you would want to be explained to why.
Yeah. And that's with anything. If there's something inside of you that's like, that doesn't sit right, don't keep your mouth shut.
Bless you.
Find your voice.
And just share it and learn in that moment, isn't it?
Ask why. Ask why do you do that in that respect,
So,
and like with the parent. Sorry.
Thank you. So sorry about that. No, the life of the parent, I didn't want to cut you there, but I was just trying to evolve. This is basically going to evolve very, very beautifully into our final conversation with yourself. I told you this would go fast, didn't I?
It went fast.
It's been fun, hasn't it? I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Really
so one of the key questions I'd like to ask everybody, we always at this point, we call it a wisdom point. So in your world, what would you say is your wisdom quote that really gives you the pick-me-up at that moment to reflect, to get you to reflect inwards and perk yourself up and get on with one's life? Is there such a wisdom quote for you?
So if you are on your path of choice, if you are choosing, you're intentionally setting out to achieve something, your overarching theme and thought process should be that which is meant for you will never pass you by.
That which is meant for you will never pass you by. Wow.
Yeah. And I say that through experience, having tried to get onto the West End, auditioned for that 3-4 times over a space of 3 years. And each time I was like, I don't want it. But I head ruled the heart. And it was, isn't this what you're supposed to do as an actor, have the West End? But I didn't want to move to London at 42 years old and leave my 12-year-old twins at home with my husband who had to go part-time. There was so much more sacrifice going on just for me to go to London and do this. So I was like just behaving and towing the line because I felt so grateful to my agent. I didn't want to upset him. So I did it out of duty and loyalty and integrity to him because they are part of my core values.
Absolutely.
And and everything happened as it should be.
I was going to say, so what you're saying, that's so powerful. So even though you reflected upon yourself and said, I don't really want to go to London at the age of 42 and take this role on, really, the first time you were rejected, second time you went for it again, and the third time you actually got it because it was destined for you then, wasn't it?
Yes.
So, Is that right?
And because I never deviated from my path, I still maintained the actor's path, just doing itty-bitty stuff in the meantime. My intention was still to be an actor. I never stopped doing that. So the opportunity arose again.
And it was going to come your way. It's going to land on your lap, whether you like it or lump it.
Exactly. And so if I'd given up after the first year and thought, I'm not going to bother with that again, they didn't want me. In fact, this election malarkey is pointless. I'm leaving. Then I would never have achieved that. If you're going to deviate from your path so much so.
To keep momentum.
Yeah, keep momentum. Beautiful. Stay consistent. Remain in your lane. Stay where you are.
What a powerful, powerful message and wisdom pick-me-up that you have there. I can't believe it's the end of such an enlightening interview. We've just traveled We've journeyed together, we've riffed and had a lovely conversation with everybody. I genuinely hope that the Empower Hour show and its audience will reflect and see you as the true person you really are. I wanted to thank you on behalf of Salam Radio and myself, Sukhi, Wahiwala, and the whole inspired tribe listening today, Buckso. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you. And just everybody else, thank you very much for tuning in with us. We're just seeing an amazingly acclaimed individual, an actor, a mother, a daughter, a really brilliant human being, somebody out there who's creating change in the worlds of others with this new vein of gratitude and self-reflection, championing females and women in this world. Please, if you want to reach out, just get hold of Buckso. Just connect with her on her. Do you have a website there at all?
I do. It's all the W's. Buckso, Buckso, DW.com.
Buckso.
DW.
BW. D for Delta Whiskey, Delta Whiskey W.
Yeah. BucksoDW.com and get in touch with me on there.
Or Instagram?
Instagram is at just Buckso.
At just Buckso.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you
you
very much for that, Buckso. Once again, thank you on behalf of the whole team. And I hope you thoroughly enjoyed it. Everybody else, this has been episode 73 of the Empower Hour show, where we bring you celebrities, people who have tried, people who have achieved, and have faced empowering decisions in their world. That is what the Empower Hour show is about. I shall see you every week, next week in specific, between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the evening. Thank you very much for tuning in. On behalf of myself, Sukhi Wahiwala,